Don't get your hopes up. Today isn't about you. That's what my dad whispered to me, seconds before they called my name at graduation. Let me ask you something. Have you ever worked your entire life for one moment, only to realize, right when it finally arrives, it was never meant for you? Because that's exactly what happened to me. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My name is Lena Morales. I'm 18 years old, and on the day I was supposed to celebrate everything I'd worked for, my family made sure I understood exactly where I stood. And it wasn't where you'd expect. The sun was brutal that afternoon. One of those heavy, suffocating summer days where the air sticks to your skin, the kind that makes everything feel slower, heavier, on rows of students in identical blue gowns, nervous laughter, cameras flashing, parents waving like this was the proudest day of their lives. For most people, it was. For me, something already felt off. I remember scanning the crowd, searching for my parents, and I found them, front row. Of course they were. My dad, Carlos, sitting upright like he owned the place. My mom, Diana, beside him, smiling, but not at me, at my brother. Ethan, 20 years old, college dropout, family favorite. He wasn't even graduating. But somehow, he looked like the one being celebrated. And then I saw it, a small black box in my dad's hand, polished, intentional, important. My heart actually lifted for a second. Was that for me? I mean, straight A's, debate captain. I worked part-time after school. I stayed up nights studying while everyone else slept. If there was ever a day they'd finally say, "We're proud of you," this was it. Right? Lena Morales. The dean's voice echoed through the speakers. That was it, my moment. I stood up slowly, my legs already shaking, not from nerves, but from something I couldn't explain yet. And then everything shifted. Before I could take a single step forward, my dad stood up, but he wasn't looking at me. He turned to Ethan, and loudly, confidently, like this was the plan all along, he said, "Come here, son." The crowd murmured, confused, curious. I froze. Ethan walked down toward him, smiling like he already knew what was happening. My dad opened the box. Inside, car keys, shiny, brand new. The kind that catches the sunlight just enough to make sure everyone sees. And then he said it. "This is for you. You earned it." Applause broke out. Actual applause. For him, not me. I wish I could tell you I reacted right away. That I said something. That I stood up for myself. But I didn't. I just stood there, halfway between my seat and the stage, feeling like the ground had dropped out from under me. Because in that moment, something clicked. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't bad timing. This was intentional. And then, it got worse. My mom stood up next. For a second, I thought, okay, maybe this is where she fixes it. Maybe she says something. Maybe she walked over to me, not smiling anymore, not even really looking at me. And she handed me something. Folded, thin, weightless. I opened it slowly. A bus ticket, one way, no explanation, no note. A destination printed in faded ink. I looked up at her, waiting for something, anything to make this make sense. But all she said was, "You'll figure things out." Behind her, my dad chuckled. Actually chuckled. "He earned it," he said again, nodding toward Ethan, who was now holding those keys like they meant everything. "And you?" he added, glancing at me. "Take the bus." Take the bus. That was it. That was what my entire life, my grades, my effort, my sacrifices, were worth to them. A bus ticket. And here's the part no one talks about. It wasn't just the humiliation. It was the silence. No one stepped in. Teachers looked away. Parents whispered. Some students stared. Others pretended not to notice. Because what do you even say when someone's own family does that to them? Lena Morales. The dean called my name again, louder this time, waiting. The whole world felt like it was holding its breath. So I moved. One step, then another. My hands were shaking, but not from nerves anymore, from something sharper, colder. As I walked past my family, I made the mistake of looking at my mom one more time. Just once. Hoping maybe there was something I missed. Some explanation, some regret, some sign that this wasn't what it looked like. But instead, she slowly lowered her hands and stopped clapping. Why would a mother stop clapping for her own daughter on the most important day of her life? What did she know that I didn't? This wasn't the first time they chose him over me, but it was the first time they didn't even try to hide it. Let me take you back for a second, because moments like that, and they don't just appear out of nowhere, they build, quietly, slowly, until one day everything spills out in front of everyone, and suddenly what used to happen behind closed doors becomes public. Growing up, I learned early what my role was. Not the favorite, not the problem child either. Just the invisible one. My brother Ethan, he was the opposite. Loud, funny, effortless. The kind of person who could fail a test and still get a pat on the back. Grades don't define you, my dad would say to him. But when I brought home straight A's, all I got was, that's expected. Expected, like it didn't cost me anything. Like those late nights, those skipped weekends, those quiet sacrifices were just background noise. I remember one specific moment. I was 14. I just won first place at a regional science fair. Out of hundreds of students. I walked into the house holding that trophy like it meant something. Like I meant something. My dad was in the living room. Ethan was there too, complaining about failing math again. Guess who got all the attention? Not me. Not the girl holding proof she was doing something right. No, my dad turned to Ethan and said, "We'll get you a tutor, don't worry." Then he looked at me, quick glance. "Put that somewhere," he said. That was it. That's when I started to understand. It wasn't just emotional, it was practical too. By the time I was 16, I had a part-time job. After school, weekends, summers. I paid for my own supplies, my own clothes sometimes. Meanwhile, Ethan got a new phone after dropping out of college. "You need support right now," my mom told him gently. Support. And that word stuck with me. Because apparently, I didn't need any. But here's where things started getting strange. Looking back now, there were signs, little comments that didn't quite make sense. One night, I overheard my parents arguing in the kitchen. I wasn't trying to listen, it just carried through the walls. My dad sounded frustrated. "We've already invested too much." My mom's voice was quieter, shaky. "She deserves a chance." A chance? At what? I remember standing there, frozen, trying to piece it together, but then, footsteps, silence. The conversation ended like it never happened. And the next morning, everything was normal again. Like always, fast forward to senior year, this was supposed to be my turning point. College applications, scholarships, a way out. Not just from the house, but from that constant feeling of being less than. And I worked for it, hard. My teachers noticed, especially Ms. Patel. She pulled me aside one day after class. "You're one of the most driven students I've ever had," she said. I laughed it off at first. I didn't know how to take compliments. But she didn't let it go. "No, I mean it. You're going to do something big, Lena. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." That stuck with me, because for the first time, someone saw me. Not as an obligation, not as an afterthought, but as someone with actual potential. And that's why graduation mattered so much. It wasn't just a ceremony. It was proof. Proof that everything I'd done wasn't invisible. That it counted. That I counted. But standing there on that stage, after everything that just happened, and it didn't feel like proof anymore. It felt like a setup. Like I was missing something important. Something everyone else already knew. I reached the dean. He handed me my diploma. But he didn't let go right away. His grip tightened slightly, subtle, intentional. I looked up at him, and that's when I saw it. Not pride, not celebration, concern. He leaned in, just enough so no one else could hear, and quietly said, "We need to talk after this." Wait, what? Why would the dean need to talk to me? What could possibly be so important that it couldn't wait? As I walked off the stage, diploma in hand, one thought kept repeating in my mind. This wasn't just about the car, or the bus ticket, or even my parents. Something bigger was going on, and I was the last person to find out. That was the moment I realized my graduation wasn't the real event. Have you ever had that feeling? Like everything happening around you is just noise. Like the real story is unfolding somewhere else, and you're only just starting to catch up? That's exactly where I was. Walking off that stage, diploma in hand, Bainama applause echoed behind me. None of it felt real anymore, because now I had a question I couldn't ignore. Why did the dean need to talk to me? The ceremony dragged on, but I don't remember most of it. Names were called, people cheered, caps shifted in the heat, but I was stuck in my own head, replaying everything. The car, the bus ticket, my dad's voice, my mom, stopping her applause. And now this. We need to talk. Those 4 words felt heavier than everything else combined. Finally, it ended. And caps flew into the air. People rushed into hugs and photos. Families gathered, celebrating. I stood there for a second, unsure where to go. And then I saw him, the dean, standing off to the side, scanning the crowd like he was looking for me specifically. When our eyes met, he gave a small nod. That was my cue. Lena, he said as I approached, his tone calm but serious. Not celebratory, not casual, serious. Do you have a moment? I nodded. What else was I going to say? He led me away from the crowd. Not far, just enough that the noise faded into the background. And then, he handed me an envelope, plain, sealed, my name written across the front. You deserve to see this, he said. That word again. Deserve. Why did that suddenly feel so loaded? Is something wrong? I asked. He paused, just for a second, then said, That depends on what you've been told. What I've been told? My chest tightened. Just open it, he added. So I did. Slowly, carefully, like whatever was inside might actually change something. And it did. The first thing I saw was a letter. Official letterhead. University logo. My eyes scanned the words quickly and then stopped. Full academic scholarship. Wait, what? I blinked, read it again, then again. No mistake. It was addressed to me. Awarded based on merit, covers tuition, housing, expenses, everything. My heart started racing. This was everything I'd worked for. This was the way out, the opportunity, the proof. But then, there was a second document, attached, and that's where everything shifted. Declined. The word was stamped clearly across the page. My stomach dropped. No, but that didn't make sense. I never declined anything. I would never. My hands started shaking as I kept reading. There was a note. Formal. Signed. Student will not be attending. Thank you for the offer. I felt like the ground tilted under me. This isn't right, I said, my voice barely holding together. I never saw this. I never signed anything. I know, the dean said quietly. Silence stretched between us, heavy, suffocating. They contacted your home, he continued. We received confirmation. Everything appeared legitimate. Legitimate. That word made it worse somehow, because it meant someone had made sure it looked real. And then it hit me. Not confusion, not misunderstanding, something else, something deliberate. They declined it? I whispered. The dean nodded once. Yes. I couldn't even process it fully yet, because that only led to one question. One terrifying, unavoidable question. Who would do that? And why? I didn't say another word. I just turned and walked, straight back toward the crowd, toward my family. Because whether I was ready or not, I needed answers. I found them near the parking lot. Of course I did, because where else would they be? Ethan was standing next to it, the car, laughing with my dad, holding those keys like they meant something, like he earned them. My mom stood a little off to the side, quieter, watching. I walked straight up to them, no hesitation, no second thoughts, and I held up the papers. What is this? My voice didn't shake this time. That surprised even me. My dad glanced at the documents. Barely. Then shrugged. We made the right choice. Just like that. No explanation, no denial, just that. The right choice? For who? You declined my scholarship, I said. Not a question, a statement. Yes, he replied, calm, firm, like it wasn't even worth discussing. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just cleanly. Why? I asked. And for the first time, my mom spoke, her voice quiet, unsteady. Because she hesitated, looked at my dad, then back at me. We didn't have a choice. Didn't have a choice? What does that even mean? Because from where I was standing, this looked like a decision, a very clear one. And suddenly, the car, the ticket, the silence. It all felt connected, but not in a way that made sense. Not yet. And so I asked the only thing left to ask. What aren't you telling me? And no one answered. That was the first honest thing my mom had said in years, and somehow it made everything worse. We didn't have a choice. Those words just hung there, heavy, vague, almost rehearsed. Let me ask you something. When someone says they had no choice, do you believe them right away? Because I didn't. Not with everything I'd just seen. Not with a brand new car sitting 10 feet away. What does that even mean? I asked, my voice sharper now. No choice about what? My mom hesitated again. That same hesitation I'd seen my whole life. Like every word had to pass through fear before it reached her mouth. We're in trouble, Lena, she said finally. Financially. Financial trouble. Okay, that explained something, but not everything. Oh, not even close. What kind of trouble? I pushed. My dad sighed, already irritated. Debt, he said bluntly. Medical bills, loans, things you wouldn't understand. Wouldn't understand? I almost laughed, because I'd been working since I was 16 just to afford notebooks and shoes. But sure, tell me I wouldn't understand. Then why? I gestured toward the car, unable to hold it in anymore. Why is that sitting there? Silence. For a second, no one spoke. Not my dad, not my mom, not even Ethan. And that's when I noticed something. Ethan wasn't smiling anymore. The confidence? Gone. His grip on the keys tightened slightly. His eyes flicked, not at my parents, but at me. Then away. Answer me, I said, quieter this time. More controlled, more dangerous. If we're struggling so badly, why give him a car? My dad stepped forward, his tone defensive now. Because he needs it. Needs it? For what? I shot back. He's not even in school. That's not the point. Then what is the point? The conversation was spiraling. Fast, and people were starting to notice. Families nearby slowed down. Voices lowered, eyes turned. That perfect image we'd always kept intact. It was cracking, right here in the parking lot. Enough, my dad snapped. We're not doing this here. No, I said immediately. We are doing this here. Because for once, I wasn't going to let it disappear behind closed doors. And then, something shifted. Ethan spoke. Wait, what scholarship? Everything stopped. I turned to him slowly. What? He looked genuinely confused, not defensive, not dismissive, and confused. What scholarship? He repeated. What are you talking about? I held up the papers again. This one, the one they declined. He frowned. Actually frowned. Like this was new information. And that's when the first real crack appeared. Not in the situation, in the story. You didn't know? I asked. He shook his head, slowly. No, they just said, you weren't going. My heart skipped. Wait, what? They told you that? I asked. Yeah, he said. That you didn't want to leave. That you changed your mind. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Because now, nothing lined up. My parents thought I declined. Ethan thought I chose not to go. But I never even knew. So who made that decision? I looked back down at the documents, at the signature, at the approval. And that's when something clicked. A detail I'd missed before. Small, but wrong. The handwriting. I'd seen my parents sign things my whole life. Checks, forms, documents. This wasn't quite the same. Close, but not exact. Too careful, too deliberate, like someone trying to copy, instead of write naturally. My pulse quickened. Slowly, I lifted my head. And this time, I didn't look at my parents. I looked straight at Ethan. He froze. Just slightly, but enough. And in that moment, everything started to fall into place. The car, the confidence, the timing, the lies. My voice dropped. Quiet, sharp, unavoidable. Ethan, he didn't respond, didn't move. I took a step closer, holding the paper between us. Did you sign this? Silence. Not denial, not confusion, just silence. And that silence, it said everything. And silence can be louder than anything. And in that moment, standing in a crowded parking lot, diploma still in my hand, my entire future hanging in the balance, that silence told me everything I needed to know. Ethan, I said again, slower this time. Did you sign this? His eyes dropped, not to the ground, to the paper. And that was it. That tiny movement, that hesitation, that guilt. I didn't think it would matter that much. That's what he said. Not no, not I didn't do it. Just, I didn't think it would matter. Let that sink in. My chest tightened, but this time it wasn't confusion. It was clarity. Cold, sharp, final. You didn't think it would matter, I repeated. Every word felt heavier than the last. That was my future. I know, he said quickly, finally looking up. Look. You were going to leave anyway, okay? And everything was already messed up at home and what? I cut in. His voice cracked. And I didn't want to be the one who stayed behind. There it was. Not responsibility, not misunderstanding, fear. Selfish, quiet fear, disguised as a decision. You intercepted the letter, I said, piecing it together out loud. You signed their names. You sent it back. He didn't deny it, didn't argue, didn't even try to defend himself properly because he couldn't. I just needed time, he muttered. Things were already bad. I thought, if you stayed, it wouldn't all fall on me. Behind him, my parents stood frozen. This wasn't the story they thought they were part of. What do you mean? My dad asked, his voice suddenly less certain. Ethan hesitated, then exhaled. Mom, you said we couldn't afford both of us, he admitted. You said someone had to stay. I thought if she didn't go, it wouldn't be me. And just like that, everything connected. My parents had been struggling financially. That part was true. They believed I had chosen not to go to college. Based on that belief, they shifted everything toward Ethan, thinking he was the only one left to invest in. Ethan, afraid of being left behind and carrying the weight of the family situation, intercepted my scholarship letter. He forged their approval, declined it, rewrote my future, without ever telling anyone. No misunderstanding, no accident. A deliberate choice. I didn't cry. That's the part people expect. But it didn't happen. Not right away. Because what I felt wasn't just sadness, it was something deeper. And a kind of emptiness that comes when everything finally makes sense, and you realize how preventable it all was. You didn't just lie, I said quietly. Ethan didn't look at me. You decided who I was allowed to become. That landed. Hard. My mom covered her mouth, tears finally spilling over. I didn't know, she whispered. And for once, I believed her. My dad looked at Ethan like he was seeing him clearly for the first time. Not as the favorite, not as the one with potential, but as someone who had just crossed a line you don't come back from easily. What did you do? He asked, not angry, not loud, just stunned. Things didn't magically fix themselves after that. They got messier first, realistically messy. At the school level, the dean got involved immediately once I explained everything. And forgery, especially on official academic documents, is serious. An investigation was opened. The university reviewed the case, emails, signatures, timestamps, everything. And the truth? It was obvious. The result, my scholarship was reinstated. Not as a favor, but because it was wrongfully declined under fraud. I was given a late acceptance window and full support to enroll. That part? That was justice. For Ethan, it didn't end quietly. The school documented the fraud. While they chose not to press full legal charges since no money had been exchanged yet, it went on record. His reputation took a hit, fast, but the bigger consequence was at home. For the first time in our lives, Ethan wasn't the center of support. He was the source of the damage. My dad stopped defending him. Completely. No more excuses. No more he'll figure it out. Just distance, cold, unfamiliar distance. My mom? She changed too, but not instantly. Guilt doesn't fix behavior overnight, but it shows up. In silence, in hesitation, in the way she started looking at me, like she was finally seeing everything she missed. And me? I stopped waiting. A few weeks later, I stood at a bus stop. Same kind of ticket in my hand. Same idea. But everything about it felt different. Because this time, it wasn't something handed to me. It was something I chose. In my bag, my acceptance letter, my scholarship confirmation, a one-way trip to a campus that actually wanted me there. No audience, no applause, no dramatic speeches, just me. Standing there, with control for the first time. I heard footsteps behind me. I didn't turn right away, but I knew. Lena. My mom's voice. Quiet, careful. I looked back. She wasn't crying this time. No performance, no excuses. I should have listened, she said. That was it. No long speech, no attempt to rewrite the past, just truth. And for the first time, that was enough. Not to fix everything, but to close something. The bus pulled up, doors opened. I stepped forward. Paused for just a second. Not because I was unsure, but because I finally understood something I didn't before. I was never invisible. I was just surrounded by people who refused to see me. And now, that wasn't my problem anymore. I stepped onto the bus, didn't look back again. This time, I said quietly, more to myself than anyone else, I decide where I'm going, and I did.